All right. All right. Happy Tuesday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. My special guest tonight is Abdul Muhammad. He is an award-winning educator, and he has been teaching in Chicago public schools for over 25 years. Welcome, Abdul. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, sister, and thank your listeners as well.
So, Chicago public schools, and I've heard some stories, and some of the stories I've heard coming from CPS are similar to Boston public schools. So when you sent me this information, I actually wasn't surprised.
Yes, ma'am.
There appears to be a problem with Chicago public schools, in particular, Black male principals. And I want to show this article here. It says Chicago public schools, aggressive tactics for removing principals under the microscope. 9 principals have been removed pending discipline or investigations into serious misconduct in recent years. Of those 6 are Black men. Let's go ahead and get started with that. What happened with you specifically, Abdul?
Like you said, I've been an award-winning educator for the last 25 years in the city of Chicago. I won the Teacher of the Year award. I was nominated for Who's Who Among, well, not nominated, but I was featured in Who's Who Among American High School Teachers for 4 or 5 consecutive years, as well as nominated twice for the Golden Apple Award. Although I've done stellar work in every school that I've ever worked in, transformed every school with everything that's going on in the city of Chicago, I've done that transformative work. When I got to a new school, last school year, the school is 75% Black, but the staff is 95% white. There were 7 white teachers who did not like the fact that a Black man was selected to be the principal of this school in the Black community. Even though the school is in a Black neighborhood, it's a Black school. The local school council is the body that elects the principal, and the local school council members are Black. But the staff was 95% white. And believe it or not, the school has never had a Black principal since it reopened in 2005. So I was the first Black principal at this particular school called Lindblom High School in Chicago. And, when I was elected to be the principal, that is when the problem started, as well as the fact that when I got to the school, I was holding the white teachers accountable for what they were not doing in the school for Black children.
Mm-hmm. So for people who are not aware, Boston Public Schools is similar. If you go to some of the schools in like Roxbury, Mattapan, et cetera, those are predominantly Black neighborhoods. But if you go to the schools and you look at the teachers, the educators, they do not resemble the people in the community. So Absolutely. This is oftentimes like not uncommon, particularly in a lot of these cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston. You'll see this in New York as well. One of the things that I do want to bring up, because I've noticed this seems to be a trend in Chicago public schools, there is a teachers union, correct?
Yes, ma'am. The Chicago Teachers Union.
Are the principals a part of the teachers union?
No, ma'am. It's against the law for the manager to be in the same union as those who they manage. So principals and teachers are in a separate union. And the mistake that people make is they think that the principals have the same protections that teachers have, but principals don't have those same protections. In fact, in Chicago, we don't have a union. We only have an association. We just got bargaining rights in December. I believe it was December of 2022. We just got bargaining rights. So the contract for the union is actually still being written, but we don't have a union as it stands right now.
Yeah, see, that's what I figured. What in particular what were the accusations made towards you?
So as I shared with you in the email, the teachers made over 83 false claims and gave those false claims to the law department. And they did sloppy investigation. The article that you just shared was written by Sarah Cart. Sarah Cart is one of the famous educational journalists in Chicago. She's the one that exposed Barbara Byrd Bennett that led to her being locked up for the contract, the no-bid contract that she did under the table, as well as exposed the lack of special education services for children in Chicago and many other issues. Sarah Cart wrote that article, and in that article, she laid out 3 points that we had been making all the time. The first point that she laid out was that Chicago public schools targets Black educators. in 1 year, they removed 10 principals. 2 were white and 8 were black. Of those black principals, 7 were black men. So black men only make up 8% of the principals in Chicago public schools, but black men are 70% of the removals. So what Sarah Karp proved, what we had already been saying, is that Chicago public schools targets black leaders, specifically black men. The second thing that Sarah Karp's article also bore witness to that we had been saying is that the charges that they use to remove principals are petty. So, for example, the teachers lied and said that I took a student to the gas station. There's a gas station right around the corner from the school. Now, y'all have to understand that this is Chicago, right? This is Inglewood, right? In Chicago, which is a high crime area in the city of Chicago. So let's say that I did walk a student to the gas station so the student could be safe. There is no crime in that, you know? So what Sarah Karp was saying is like, these are petty charges. Principals should not be removed from their job over something so petty, right? So that's one, and I could give other examples, but the third thing that Sarah Karp said that we had been saying is that the investigation was sloppy. In my particular investigation, there were 40 people there are 40 witnesses that they didn't even interview. The only people they interviewed were the 7 white teachers that did not want me at the school. And the last thing that we had been saying that Sarah Karp did not say is that the charges, and I know in my case particular, are 100% false. So for example, if you ask me, well, did you walk a student to the gas station? Absolutely not. In the Chicago Public Schools Law Department report, it says in 2 different places that the student left the school to go get snacks. So, I mean, I can't make this stuff up. But they use these fake investigations to remove principals in Chicago that are doing an effective job with black children, but then at the same time complain about the problems that they have with those same children.
But why does it matter if you did walk a student to the gas station?
Exactly. Right. So that's the point that Sarah Karp was making in the article. Even if the principal walked the student to the gas station to be safe, why is that a problem? But the bigger issue is it never happened. It is a 100%. It's just a lie. And Chicago Public Schools Law Department, the investigator, her name is Kelly Tarrant, and she accepted any lie that these 7 white teachers told. We call her the John Burge of Chicago Public Schools.
Here's the teachers. So these are the 7 teachers: Andrew Heiserman, Christina Davis, right, Gabriella Feimer,
yes,
Ian Brannigan, right, Laren Levites, Joseph O'Hara, and Danya Atta. So these right are the teachers.
And I'll just say this real quick because I know we're pressed for time, but Christina Davis was one of the star witnesses for the law department. When I got to the school, Christina Davis, who's the athletic director, when I went to the homecoming football game and there were hundreds of people in the stands, you know, I got back to the school the next day and there was no financial report turned in. Now, I'm the new principal. So like, I'm new to this school. I don't know any of these people. I'm brand new. But they were not keeping financial records at the school. So when I asked for the financial report, right, exactly. And you can put her picture back up there because she's the star witness of the law department. Christina Davis was the athletic director. The school was not keeping financial records from sporting events. When I asked for the financial report from the football game, Christina Davis and the clerk, LaConda McDaniel, they just made up a report because they weren't keeping records and gave it to me. But the amount of money on the report did not match the number of people that were in the stands. So it hit me that there were 4 other games prior to the homecoming game, and they had not turned in financial reports for any of these games. So rather than go back to them, since they lied the first time, I went to the Chicago Public Schools stadium director and got the actual stadium receipt so I could see for myself how many tickets were sold at the previous games. When I confronted Miss Davis and Miss McDaniel, Miss Davis said, I asked them, I said, where's the money from the previous football games? They both looked at me and said, there is no money. Then I gave each one of them a copy of the stadium report that showed that tickets were sold and money was collected. And I asked them again, I said, where's the money from the previous football game? Miss McDaniel, the clerk, didn't say anything. Miss Davis, who's the star witness for the law department, she said that's my money. I said, Miss Davis, that's your money. She said, yeah, I brought money to make change So that's my money. I said, Miss Davis, if you sell one ticket for $5, the $5 belongs to the school. She left my office saying, no, that's my money. Then she emailed me on Saturday, which I have the records for everything that I'm saying. She emailed me on Saturday and said, I realized the mistake that I made. I'll have the money for you on Monday. So I walked into a situation where there was financial mismanagement. And as any good principal would do, I held the people responsible who were responsible for the finances, which was Miss Davis and Miss McDaniel. Chicago Public Schools has not done anything to Miss Davis, even though she mismanaged thousands of dollars, nor have they done anything to Miss McDaniel. They targeted me and for removal. So this is some of this stuff that I walked into when I came to this particular school and started to hold these teachers accountable. And they were upset that they were being held up to the policy. And Miss Davis was not the only teacher at Lindblom that was mismanaging school funds. There was another teacher that had $5,000 of school funds in her personal bank account. And what? I'm not making this up. I have records for everything that I'm telling you. And then there was a third teacher that had $4,000 of fundraising money in his, it was a fundraising account, and he's spending the money as he's doing the fundraiser. And Sister Sabby, when I got there, because keep in mind, I'm new, so I don't know these people. I was under the impression that they just didn't know how to do fundraisers. I did not think that they were actually misappropriate. I just thought that they made a mistake. But when I started to hold these white teachers accountable, then they worked together in a collective manner, Ms. Davis being their star witness, to work with the law department and Kelly Tarrant to have me removed from the school.
This is wild. I've never heard of a school not managing the finances, but at the same time, I mean, there's been some crazy things, and I want to show people the data here that you provided as well. The evidence, it says Black male principals, percentage of total principals versus percentage of targeted principals. Percentage of all principals, 8%, and percentage of targeted principals, 70%. It says here, the claim CPS management has a pattern and a practice of discriminating against Black male principals and targeting them for removal. The verdict, according to WBEZ and the Chicago Sun-Times, only 8% of CPS principals are Black men, but 70% of principals targeted for removal are Black men. Is CPS discriminating against Black male principals? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I want to add as well that people who have not worked in this system may not understand. You're an award-winning educator.
Right.
Oftentimes, it is not uncommon when you do go into work, particularly in inner city schools or under-resourced schools. A lot of people go into those schools in particular because they want to make a difference. And I know from experience, right? So myself, like I was a previous educator. I have friends that were educators that did just that because they wanted to make a difference. However, once you get there, what you realize is that they don't really want you to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And I've experienced this. I've had friends that have experienced this as well. That's why a lot of people, if you guys notice in the teaching profession, especially since the pandemic, more people are leaving that profession because they really don't, the school board really doesn't want you to help those students. There was a movie about this. It was called The Freedom Writers. I don't know if everyone's seen that movie. If you haven't, you should see it. It stars Hilary Swank. It's based on a true story of that particular issue where she was a teacher that cared passionately about her job and she wanted to work in an inner city school in LA and she wanted to make a difference. And they told her to her face, you will most likely not be rehired next year, because a lot of times teachers don't have a contract. So what they'll do is some of the best educators that come into those schools and they're able to turn things around for the students and they're able to increase those test scores. Those are the teachers that oftentimes they will not rehire for the next school year, and they'll keep the ones that are keeping things the same. So in Boston Public Schools, for example, if you are not a part of the teachers union, you really don't have much much of a leg to stand on. But in order to join the teachers union, you have to teach at BPS for at least 3 years, and then you're eligible to join the union. If they don't rehire you for that second school year, that prevents you from joining the teachers union. So what people have to understand is a lot of the teachers, I hear people say there's no good teachers out there. There are good teachers out there, but oftentimes they are teaching at those particular schools, and the school boards, what they come to see, oh, they're helping the students. Those are the ones a lot of times they won't bring back.
Absolutely. This is exactly what's happening in the city of Chicago. Every school, Sister Sabby, that I've walked into, and I need you all, because many of you all look at Chicago from a distance, right? You see what happens on the news. In 10 days, there were 5 students murdered in front of their school within 10 days in Chicago. Not like this has just happened 2 weeks ago. 5 students murdered. Imagine sending your child to school and they come home and they say, you ask, what happened today? Oh, well, there was a double homicide in front of the school. That's what's happening right now in the city of Chicago, and the Chicago Public Schools leadership is working to remove educators from the schools that can transform that. I've worked in the most challenging environments in the city of Chicago, and everywhere I've gone, I've transformed the schools. And the most, I would say one of the best examples is when I was at a school called Nancy B. Jefferson. Nancy B. Jefferson is a school named after a civil rights leader from the west side of Chicago, but it's located inside of the juvenile detention center in the city of Chicago, meaning all the young people that get arrested, get locked up for the things that you hear about, they all have to come to this school, Nancy B. Jefferson. I was the assistant principal at the school, Nancy B. Jefferson. And when I walked in the door, my first day, they told me it's 85% Black boys, 14% Latino. And in the time that I was there, I built strong relationships with the young brothers that were incarcerated. So much so that these young brothers wanted to graduate from high school. I'm talking about we're in a school that's inside of a jail. And with the relationships that I built with the young brothers, they were focused on graduating from high school while they were incarcerated. While I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, this was the first time, Sister Sabby, that they could put the various gang members in the same room together. The GDs, the BDs, the Vice Lords, the Four Corner Hustlers, the Latin Kings, the Black Souls, the EBK. Before I got there, they couldn't put them in the same room together. But when I got there, they were able to put these young brothers in the same room together, and there would not be a confrontation. The same transformative work that I've done at every other school in Chicago, I did it at Nancy B. Jefferson. And one day while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, and I'll end with this, I received the email. And in that email, it said that 1,900 Chicago public school students went to go see this play called Hamilton, which, if you've seen Hamilton, is one of the greatest stage plays in the history of stage plays. And when I read that email, I said to myself, well, my students can't go and see Hamilton because they're incarcerated and I'm incarcerated with them. When I walk in, I have to go through 2 line scans just to get inside the school. When I go to the classrooms, some of the classrooms don't have windows when we're inside of the school. So I'm incarcerated right with them. So I reached out to the producer of Hamilton and I asked the producer, I said, I'm at Nancy B. Jefferson. My students are incarcerated. Will you bring the Hamilton play to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson? And I worked with that producer for 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, we brought Hamilton, the play, one of the greatest stage plays in the history of stage plays. We brought it to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson. And while the play was there, the producer pulled me to the side and said this. She said, Mr. Muhammad, Hamilton has only left the stage twice. Once when we brought it to the White House for Michelle and Barack Obama. And the other time is when we brought it to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson. This is the work that I've done for 25 years in the city of Chicago. But like you said, this is the reason why I'm also being attacked, and other educators like me. And it's not just myself. There are other educators who are doing phenomenal work with Black children that are being attacked and removed by Chicago public schools.
I think what people may not understand is that a lot of times with any job that you have, you can do the best job possible. And it's like, if you don't rub the right elbows, or, you're not in the right network, so to speak, then it's like you are either overlooked or you're the first they try to throw under the bus. Like what people have to understand is, like, especially in education, it's not like just doing a great job and being good at what you do, like that. People just kind of look over it. Like, they just kind of look over it. And like, such as yourself right now, like the fact that you're even in this situation for being accused of taking a student to the gas station. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous when there were people at the school who were stealing money from the school. Right. It does not make any sense. And I think what people have to understand, if you've never attended those schools or you've never worked in those schools, you are dealing with, as an educator, you are dealing with a number of challenges. You are not just coming there to teach them the curriculum. You have to deal with the fact that a lot of these students, a lot of times they're coming from single family home. Right. Where their parent is working multiple jobs just to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. Some of the kids are coming from family homes where there may be drug addiction. Right. I had students show up before where it was obvious that they needed new shoes, like there's holes in the shoes, and you have to deal with all of that. Then you have to deal with, there's the issue of gang violence. So you have to deal with that as well. Like, you're not just showing up just to teach someone a lesson in class. You have to be a counselor. You have to be they want teachers to be everything nowadays. And it's very different when you're teaching in those types of schools versus when you're teaching in the school that's in like a suburban, area that has a lot of resources.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot more challenges in the inner city schools that students face. And as a result, teachers face those same challenges as well. I want to say this real quick because I don't want to forget. There is a website where people can get more information. I put it in the chat. So if your producer wants to put it up there, that website is justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. So it kind of gives some background. It has some of the videos. So Sister Sabby, the teachers, the 3 teachers that were misappropriating thousands of dollars of school funds is really just the tip of the iceberg, So, but when you get into the details of everything that happened, so for example, that particular video, we had 4 staff members at the school. A student went to 4 separate staff members and said that she was being sexually harassed by a security guard at the school. None of those 4 staff members reported. They're mandated reporters. None of the 4 staff members reported the alleged sexual harassment. When I heard about it, after the student went to these 4 people. When I heard about it, of course, I started the investigation. I reported it and started the investigation. And CPS came after me and left those 4 staff members at the school. So those staff members still work at the school, including the security guard who was accused. They left him at the school as well. I can't make this up. This is all true. But this is the level of corruption in Chicago. But the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, there's 3 things we want you to do on that website. One is you can register for the website. 2 was 4 things. 1, register for the website so we can stay in touch with you. 2, sign the petition. 3, there is a link at the bottom where you can email Mayor Brandon Johnson. If you go down to the bottom, Sister Sabby, go up some. Just a little bit more. Yeah. So his name, right. If you click on the letter for Mayor Brandon Johnson, if you click on his name, right, if you come down just a little, right there, if you click on his name, an email will pop out and it self-populates, and all you have to do is click send. So you can email the mayor. And then last but not least, there's also a GoFundMe on the website. If you would like to donate to the GoFundMe, then it definitely would be appreciated, which is above where you are now. So register for the website, sign the petition, email the mayor. And if you would like to go donate to the GoFundMe, then you can donate to that as well. So, but at Sister Sabby, as we talked before we came on, all of these things, like every time I come on a show, every time I do a radio show, a television show, a podcast, I've had teachers and educators reach out to me from all over the country telling me that the same thing is happening in their city. There is an attack on Black educators. In a city like Chicago, if you go on the Chicago Public Schools website, they will say that we need Black educators, we need Black men, because black children perform better when they have black educators in front of them, and black males perform better when they have black men in front of them. They will say that out of their mouth, but their actions are the exact opposite of what they say. When I first became a teacher in Chicago, and I've been teaching for 25 years, and teaching is my absolute passion. I love what I do. When I first became a teacher, the percentage of black teachers in Chicago was 50%. Today, it's only 19%. And the reason is because there was a concerted effort from Chicago public schools to remove black teachers from the classroom. Now, I don't want y'all to take my word for it. They sued, like maybe 2 years ago, Chicago public schools was sued. The teachers did a class action lawsuit and won. And it's also featured on the Chicago Public Schools website under the equity section. So they're admitting that they had racist practice and policies that systematically removed black teachers. They admit on their website that when Ramy Manuel was mayor, that it was racist to close 53 schools in the black community. And in that process, it'll affect 30,000 black children who they said they would not let fall through the crack, but they fell through the crack. And black people then raised their voice against the school closing and were ignored by politicians, ignored by preachers, definitely ignored by the mayor, right? When they were removing black teachers, they were ignored by politicians, ignored by preachers, ignored by the mayor. And now, after they've removed black educators, teachers, and closed black schools and ill-affected thousands of black children, now they've turned their attack on black principals and are systematically removing black principals from schools using bogus investigations.
Well, the other thing too, you mentioned Ramy Manuel. Everyone remember he went to work for the Obama administration.
Right.
Like this guy was basically promoted after he closed all these schools in Chicago. Like this type of thing should not happen. And this is one of the reasons why I get so like frustrated.
Not only did he close 53 schools, Sister Sabby, and affect the lives of thousands of black children and families, but he also covered up the murder of a Chicago public school student when Laquan McDonald was shot down in the middle of the street by the Chicago Police Department, Jason Van Dyke. So he didn't just close black schools. He did that, right? He didn't ill affect black educators and black families, but he also covered up the murder of a Chicago public school student. And when he left Chicago, he is now the ambassador for Japan in the Biden administration.
There you go.
When black people make one little mistake, you're never getting hired again because you made one little mistake. This man covered up the murder of a child and is the ambassador of Japan. Ramy Manuel has the complexion for the protection. So what we would love everybody to do is go on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, sign the petition, email the mayor, and if you would like to donate to the GoFundMe, you can. Sister Sabby, when Chicago Public Schools came against me with this bogus investigation, what usually happens is, people get their, let me say this. What usually happens is people never find out what they've done. The system in Chicago, as it relates to principals, there's no due process. So when they removed me from my school, they told me they removed me on March 31st of 2023. And I asked them, I said, well, when are you going to let me know what I did? They didn't let me know when they removed me. They said, and of course I have the email. They said, we'll let you know in 2 to 3 weeks. They were never going to let me know. The Chicago Principals Association threatened to sue them for defamation if they did not let me know what I did. So when they released the report, what usually happens is principals just walk away. Oh, well, you can't fight CPS. They just walk away. When they released my report, I went through it line by line over 50 times, and I pulled out every lie, which at this point is up to 83 lies. And when I say lies or false claims, I'm not saying, well, I have a difference of opinion. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I have the actual facts to prove that they're lying. I'll give you an example. One of the white teachers named Ian Brannigan said that on December 22nd of 2022 that Mr. Muhammad came to school late and he didn't do anything to help. December 22nd was the first snowstorm of that year. So a lot of people called off. So anybody who's investigating whether a staff member came to work late, I mean, if you were investigating that, Sister Sabby, what would you look at to either prove this is true or false? What would you look at if you had to investigate that?
I mean, if you have to punch in.
It's real simple, right? So in the investigative report, Ian Brannigan makes the false claim that on December 22nd, I came to work late and didn't do anything to help the school. Now, an investigator would have just looked at the time clock. Kelly Tarrant did not look at the time clock. So I went and pulled my time clock from December 22nd and I swiped in at 7:46. Mr. Brannigan swiped in at 7:47. So it's a whole report full of lies just like that. I mean, they can easily be disproven, but the Chicago Public Schools Law Department and Kelly Tarrant, who we call the John Burge of Chicago Public Schools, she didn't even bother to do an investigation. And when Sarah Karp, who wrote the article that was on the cover of the Sun-Times, when she gave my investigative report to Joe Ferguson, who used to be the OIG for CPS, he said the same thing. He said that this is a sloppy investigation. So, but this is what they do. They're used to principals just walking away and not fighting. But I chose to fight. And when I chose to fight, other principals joined the fight. And we want you all to join the fight as well on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, because this is happening to Black educators all over the country. We cannot lay down. We cannot say, oh, we can't fight the city or whoever. We can't say that. These are our children. These are our children. The greatest fight that we can be involved in is not the fight that happened in Montgomery, Alabama, when the man didn't want to move his ship, his boat, and they got into a fight on the dock. That's not the greatest fight that Black people can be involved in. The greatest fight is not to go fight on a foreign battlefield. The greatest fight is not to fight against Trump or to fight against Biden or for whoever you like or don't like. The greatest fight that we can be involved in is the fight for the minds of Black children. The reason that we continue every generation to suffer the same thing is because we do not have access to the minds of our children to pass down to them the knowledge that they need. And those that do have access are systematically removing Black educators from the classroom. This is the fight. If you put a folding chair in your profile when that fight happened in Alabama, and you honored the inventor of the folding chair on your Facebook page because you thought that that fight was a noble fight, this fight is a greater fight, because this fight that we're involved in is the fight for the minds of Black children.
Where is Mayor Brandon Johnson on
That's
this?
A great question. So in December of 2022, and I'm just give it to you real quick, I had a conversation with the mayor, a one-on-one Zoom conversation, like we're talking right now. And he wasn't the mayor yet. He was running for office. And at that time, candidate Brandon Johnson said, he asked me, he said, do you have any political support? I said, yes. I said, the alderwoman supports me as well as the state rep. He said, that's great. That was December of 2022. March, I was removed. In May 18th, we had a press conference at Father Flager's church in Chicago. And we got a call that night. When I say we, myself and the brother who's over the Principals Association, Brother Troy LaRaviere, we got a call that night saying that the mayor, he's now the mayor, wanted to speak to us the next day, which was May 19th. So we had another Zoom call with the mayor. We kind of gave him an abbreviated version of what was going on. The mayor said then, he said, look, my people will get back with you. That was May of 2023. And the mayor's people have not gotten back with us. So the issue that we run into, as you already know, Sister Sabby, is unfortunately when we get politicians, Black politicians, they cannot work for whatever reason on behalf of the Black community. So they're in office and they'll do the bidding of other people. They will even do the bidding of people who are not citizens, who have no legal right to this country, but will not do the bidding of people who fought, bled, and died in every war fought for every right and everybody. I've been an educator for 25 years. My brother, who was also removed, Principal Gerald Morrow from Dunbar High School, has been an educator for 33 years. Another sister who was removed from the North Side, Harriet Tubman Elementary School, has been in CPS. She went to CPS and she taught in CPS and was an administrator. And that has been for 40 years. And we have been trying to connect with the mayor, but we haven't gotten any response from the mayor or his people. So I'll leave it at that. But the sad reality is we elect Black politicians to office, but we don't benefit from the very people that we put in office, unfortunately.
Well said, Abdul. Maybe I should reach out to Mayor Brandon Johnson to see if I can get him to come on this show, because I have a number of questions for him. Right. Maybe I should reach out to the mayor. We'll see. We'll see. Well, Abdul Muhammad, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for educating a lot of people about what's happening in the public school system in Chicago, and particularly your case. And guys, I put the link in the chat for everyone so you can support his cause here, Justice for Muhammad. And I'll put it in the chat again. But Abdul, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll be sure to share this with others as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye-bye.